everyone, welcome to my channel today. My name is Ada, your online therapist. Such a pleasure to be back, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's a beautiful day here, and I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for the birthday wishes from my mother. She was very appreciative of it, as was I. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So guys, today's topic, I'm going to be talking about not just a particular mental health disorder, but basically mental disorders in general. And I'm going to be listing about 4 or 5 of them like that, so that basically I want you to be aware if somebody you love or know is going through it. I haven't discussed all of them in my previous videos, but I felt like maybe I should pause and just give a list of as many as possible, so that you could be much more aware when you're dealing with people that seem to have all their nuts and bolts about, that don't seem to have all their nuts and bolts about up there. All right, ranging from young people to elderly people. It's a variety of mental disorders that you will encounter in today's society. And the major culprits, as always, is stress, trauma, alcohol and drug abuse, emotional abuse or stress, domestic violence, all sorts of things that sometimes we take for granted, or it's not a conversation we have in our homes as a family. These contribute to current mental disorder or mental health crisis, if I should call it crisis, that we have in our society today. So stick around, and as we go through it, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, guys. I do appreciate the likes and the subscriptions. Continue to share and share and share, so you, somebody you know, and somebody they know something about mental health. Okay, all right guys, let's get into it. All right guys, let us get into it. So the first disorder I want to talk about are mood disorders, stemming from my last video or my few videos behind it. Mood disorders, as it says, affects our mood, right? All of us encounter mood swings in our daily lives from time to time, but people with mood disorders have a more severe and persistent symptom that can last for longer times. You could have them from as little as a day to 6 months or more when it comes to this persistent mood disorder troubles and stress. So I've talked about depression. Could also be clinical depression. There's dysthymia, I guess. There's bipolar disorder, and then there's substance-induced mood disorder. So guys, basically it's a feeling of low self-esteem, hopelessness, excessive guilt, decreased energy, and all that. And as I've mentioned, a little bit of therapy, some medication, self-care can help improve mood disorders. Okay, so let's get into the next one, which is psychotic disorder. I've also discussed psychotic disorder, which includes schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. Basically, schizoaffective disorder, as I mentioned, is when you have both schizophrenia and bipolar disorder all clumped into one. Okay, then you have brief psychotic disorder, delusional psychotic disorder, and also substance-induced psychotic disorder. Twice I've mentioned substance-induced. So for those who abuse alcohol or drugs, it's very important to know that things like alcohol and drugs, they amplify your current state of mind. So people who use alcohol to numb their pain, you are doing the absolute reverse. Okay, what you think is numbing is actually waiting. It's like you are putting a bottleneck in a volcano. So for you think you've stopped it, but what you've done is actually build pressure. So you go from gentle flowing stream to this forceful tsunami powered wave. As the name says, psychotic means affecting the brain. Oftentimes some viruses, medications. Trauma is the biggest culprit when it comes to psychotic disorders, because this basically changes the wiring of the brain. When you create some sort of trauma that is so strong that the person's survival defense or mechanism is to go into this survival brain wiring or brain mapping, but that could mean shutting off other functions. There are kids who are so traumatized by their upbringing that they become reclusive, quiet, sociopaths, sometimes psychopaths. That's like the brain cutting off every other function and just focusing on survival. And that survival is when you see a red light, you run. When you see flashing lights, you duck. So it's kind of like they can't tell reality in a sense. A psychotic disorder affects your ability to interpret reality, so you don't know what's real versus what's not real, pretty much. And all in all, for some people, it's a lot of medication and therapy, but to prevent it usually is self-care. Talk to someone, have a good support system, be able to lay your burden, take off the burden for a minute so you can breathe. And as always, there are people who carry the world on their shoulder. Are you Jesus? Are you the carrier of world problems? What is your problem with the world problem? I don't know if that's a good interpretation. Basically, don't take your life too serious to the point that your brain goes into survival mode and shuts off proper functioning of your entire system. All right. The next one I'd like to mention is anxiety disorder. Now, anxiety disorder, a lot of people take anxiety disorder very lightly, but it's still a mental health disorder. Anxiety is frequent fear and apprehension. Pretty much that's what anxiety is about, and that means, they're coming after you, or some things, if you don't do something a certain way, it's not going to work. If you're not the first, something kind of bad is going to happen. So that's sort of, and one typical or two typical anxiety disorders is obsessive compulsive disorder. These people cannot have things any other way except a certain way. And then you have the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's you're triggered when something, there's a stress trigger, a loud bang, flashing lights, hissing sound, it could be anything that reminds you of this stressful situation that can trigger your anxiety pretty much. It could be, your anxiety can be triggered by the most inordinate things. It could be a rope line kind of on the floor and you think it's a snake, maybe a peanut beside you and you think it's a roach. So there are things that trigger your anxieties, as it were. And then you have the social anxiety disorder. A lot of teenagers fall within this category where, it's like they don't know how to relate, they don't know how to mingle and integrate and interact with their peers or other people. That could happen. And then there's a generalized anxiety disorder. And also there's panic disorder. It could happen to a person who is about to hit the stage. Stage fright is a small thing, but panic disorder could be a real thing. It's a real deal. You go from stage fright to real panic attacks and the likes of it. So yeah, anxiety disorders cause people to experience distressing and frequent fear and apprehension. And this could be it. The biggest issue about why you could call it an anxiety disorder is when you look at a non-stressful event, someone suffering anxiety disorder will be triggered by even non-stressful events. It could be just sitting down watching birds, and a bird approaching, the window could make them take off, because there's like some flying object or missile, something, so it's typically non-stressful events, and this stuff could last up to 6 months or more as well. Okay, So we've talked about mood disorders, psychotic disorders, and anxiety disorders. So I'm going to head straight into the next one, which is eating disorders. So guys, two popular eating disorders we know is anorexia and bulimia. All right. And these have, when women particularly, because men suffer it, probably when they're in a perfectionist kind of career like modeling and all that, and a kid, a boy. But I'm saying women mostly because of the beauty standards, career choice, bullying, and maybe this desire to look like a certain body type, or the feeling that you get the best attention when you have a certain body type. So eating disorders, it's about your relationship with food. Like, what is your relationship with food? Sometimes, someone's like, are you a vegetarian? Are you vegan? I'm like, no, I have a healthy relationship with meat. Okay. I'm not crazy about it, but it's not totally out of my diet. But if I don't see it, I'm not going to cry over, it's not going to spoil my mood if I don't see it, basically. So, it's an unhealthy eating habit you develop that could make you throw up your food just because you feel like you've eaten 1,000 too many calories. You restrict your food and you binge. And binging really is, you just like you binge watch, you can binge eat. You just keep going. You just grab. There's nothing. It's like every time there's nothing in your hand, you just go grab something and just make sure there's something in your hand. So that's not good. Purging, overeating, it's really a big deal. And you have anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, pica eating disorder, and rumination disorder. You feel threatened that your eating might hurt you. Imagine thinking food is going to hurt you. That is going to create a very unhealthy habit and you see people who are anorexic are very thin, like super, super thin. That's almost like the most common one in modeling careers. And I'm basically with my women, but a lot of models, you have to wonder, why is she so thin and skeletal and bones? And fashion industries need to be more responsible about, making sure that they're not turning humans into mannequins. All right. So guys, last but not least, I wanted to leave this mental disorder to the last because it affects, it's noticeable in older people, and this mental disorder is called dementia. And the most popular mental disorder we know out there is Alzheimer's disease, okay? Now, the issue with dementia is the gradual degradation of your cognitive abilities. I'll say that again. Gradual degradation of your cognitive abilities. Why is it so common with old people? Well, there's memory loss, language loss, emotional abilities, and oftentimes it will result to inability, loss of physical abilities where you can't do even the most basic things. Take a shower, remember your name, and things like that. So dementia is a severe damage to the brain, and it decreases your ability to think, remember, solve emotional problems. You have difficulty with language, loss of motivation, and overall cognitive ability, loss of cognitive ability. And guess what? Cognitive abilities reside in your frontal lobe. Remember when we talked about being ridden by your emotions? Now imagine where your cognitive ability is completely lost or severely damaged. That means that person is going to be erratic. Okay, and oftentimes when you see a dementia patient, they will be aggressive if they feel like they don't know you, and they, it's like, I don't know you. Why are you here? Why are you touching me? Why are you close to me? And judgment, ability to make decisions, they don't have that ability as well. And so in general, it strips a person of their ability to carry out even the most mundane of tasks, thinking, memory, storage, and so on. Talk about Alzheimer's disease. disease, Parkinson's disease, frontotemporal dementia, Huntington's disease, and then Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. So I'm hoping that, we could. It's not typical in African societies to see these things as, we see them as demonic, we see them as punishment for being an evildoer, but the science behind it says if you don't take care of yourself, or if you don't, if the trauma is not reversed, you have every likelihood of having some mental disorder or illness. So, talk about anorexia, you see a very skinny person. It doesn't mean skinny people have anorexia. There are people whose metabolism is that fast, it keeps them slim no matter what they eat. But an anorexic person, you can notice that they reject food. Okay? Anyone who is skinny, very skinny, and still hates food, you need to ask them about their relationship with food. What do they think about? What do they consider as healthy eating? Okay? And if you notice family members, especially the aged or the old elderly, forgetting, where they kept their keys, who you are, it's time to seek medical help, because they may be heading towards dementia. And oftentimes music kind of helps dementia patients. Just something about music. I might do a little research on that. Find out how music helps dementia patients and patients living with schizophrenia. And when it comes to psychotic disorders, please, please, please desist from abusing alcohol and drugs. Okay? They have a very powerful effect on the brain. It's like, if you think about brain eating worms, alcohol is a brain drainer. Let's not even talk about your liver, okay? Alcohol consumption is not good for the liver. Moderation, yes, because the liver takes a while to get alcohol out of your system. So you do not want to be dumping that many. It's like dumping a toxic chemical into the river. The microbiome of the river might eventually get rid of the toxic chemicals, but if you just keep dumping and dumping over time, those chemicals will overwhelm the microorganisms, and suddenly it becomes a dead sea. All right? So just as smokes damage your lungs, smoking damages lungs, alcohol abuse damages your liver. Same thing with medication abuse. They also damage your liver, because your liver is your filtration mechanism. And if the filtration mechanism is damaged, guess what? You're going to be having food in your bloodstream. You're going to be having toxins in your bloodstream. You're going to be having serious medical health issues, all because of one stupid or dumb move. All right? Please stay smart, stay healthy, stay connected, people. All right? Let's not try and be the Joneses. Okay? Stop jonesing. All right, so guys, thank you so much for listening. Apologies, this video came out late. Just had a lot on my hands, and I finally got this ready. All right, I will try and get back on my schedule, but for now, bear with me. There's a little disruption of schedule. All right, but I'll try and get every video out every week. So I will see you, lovely people, in my next video. Until then, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Ta-ta!